This is the Resilience Code, turning adversity into strength, one story at a time. I am your host, Arbaina Kawilan, and if you ever wanted to share your story, there's a link in my bio. How would you like to be remembered? Not someday when you are gone, but now, today. Because legacy isn't just about the end of our lives, it's the seeds we're carrying and the ones we're planting every single day. Some of those seeds, I didn't ask for them. I grew up with poverty, and poverty is tricky because it planted two seeds within me. On one side, it planted the seed of lack, the voice that always whispered, I am never enough. That seed made me cautious, sometimes even small. But on the other side, the same soil gave me resilience, resourcefulness, the scrappy part of me that could take almost nothing and still make something out of it. Alchemy in its most raw form. Two sides of the same coin. And I've had to learn just because both seeds are there doesn't mean they both get watered. I get to choose which one grows. I get to choose which one to leave behind and which ones to tend to. Pay attention even more close. And then there's seeds that I planted on purpose. You see, I was recently a guest to a podcast that basically talks about discipline. And I was asked, how did discipline help me? How do I view discipline? And I said, discipline to me is a privilege because it's not every day that you can do it, especially if you are so busy surviving. I never actually get to have discipline, at least the way that I wanted to, until I started choosing myself, until I left my abuser and felt safe for the very first time in my life. That's when I finally had the chance to be disciplined. And it's one of those seeds that I planted for myself. I didn't get to inherit that. I chose to have that. To me, that looks like waking up really early in the morning for movement, for physical exercise, for mindfulness, for me to write on my journal. Discipline to me looks like showing up for myself before I can show up for the world. That's the seed that I never saw while growing up. Every single one in my family was busy people pleasing. busy overgiving to others. And I might be on the other side of that overgiving, but that didn't mean I wanted it, or that didn't mean that I wanted the other person to overcompensate for me. Because at the end of the day, we are so much better when we fill our cups first. Another seed that I am planting, or I am nurturing with myself right now, is patience. The hardest one for me so far, but I'm planting it anyway. I never knew that I would be where I am today. But at the same time, that would make me impatient because I am seeing the benefits of my work, my hard work, but I'm not seeing the full benefits of it right now. And this experience is teaching me patience in ways that I never imagined. And speaking of seeds and planting seeds, one of the things that I did today was plant seeds in the future that I wanted. I am trying to grow my LinkedIn connections. And at some point in my life, I wanted to end up as a diplomat. But I have multiple steps to get there. I plan to write a book. I plan to study law, international human rights law, to be exact, and then be a diplomat. Today, I planted seeds for those. I started creating connections in fields that I wanted to be in, creating connections with people that are in the university that I wanted to attend. They'd probably question, who is this woman? We have no mutual connections, but who is she? Just somebody trying to plant seeds. And whether they accept my connection or not, at least I tried. At least I planted seeds. These aren't big gestures. They're small and lucrative even sometimes. But these small seeds add up. They grow into the kind of life that I actually wanted to live in. But there's also seeds that doesn't stay with me at all. They scatter. When I show up authentically and unapologetically, it gives someone else permission to do the same. One of the main motivations of me speaking about my story, everything from childhood to my immigration story to my domestic violence and surviving that, the main motivation is for me to inspire others. Maybe not actually talk about it, but to see that there is a bright side on all of these things. That even if it's hard right now, there is another side of it, even if it doesn't show at the moment. When I tell my story, I'll get a message from a stranger saying, I needed that today. And that's when I realized my survival planted courage in someone else's soil. I may never see the tree, but I know something is growing. seeds remind me that resilience is never just about us. It multiplies. It carries forward. It shows up in places we'll never step foot in. So let me ask you again. How would you like to be remembered? By the seeds of lack or the seeds of resilience? By the ones you inherited or the ones you choose to plant? By what stayed with you or by what multiplied beyond you? Because every fruit carries seeds, and every seed carries the chance for a new beginning. That's it for today's story. Always remember, resilience isn't about pretending you're okay. It's about choosing, again and again, not to be hardened, but to be changed.